Oh, I think if I was the last number, like 43% or 44, something like that percent of the supplements we've tested have failed on our testing. And by fail, I mean we define fail as less than 95% of the active ingredient on the bottle. But most products, when they fail, they either don't have it at all or they have less than 5% of the active ingredient in. And they're doing that fairy dusting to kind of uh, maximum, just hit the fact that they actually have the ingredient, at all. And so it's a strikingly high percent of supplements that we test that turn out to not have that ingredient available.
Hello, Dr. Glenn. You are the head of science at SuppCo, a company that helps people optimize their supplement routines with personalized recommendations and expert-backed quality ratings. So welcome to Modern Healthspan, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Glenn, to start off with, I suspect a number of people have not heard of SuppCo. Could you introduce SuppCo? What is their mission and what do they do?
Yes, I mean, SuppCo is here to help make sense of the supplement industry. There are thousands among thousands of products out there. There are reasons to take every different supplement, and people don't necessarily know how to make sense of it all. You look at that wall of supplements and you're like, what do I even do with this? And honestly, that's what SuppCo is here for, to help people understand the right supplement at the right time for the right reason and the right amount, and really just make sense of what has become a very diverse and very muddied field.
I would certainly agree that that is definitely necessary. That it's because there are, as you say, there's so many supplements, and it's very difficult to tell not only which ones to take, but which ones to trust in terms of whether they really have the content that they say they do. Okay, so kind of double clicking on that, going into a bit more detail. So one of the things you do is you look at the quality of the supplements. So could you talk about what is your process for that?
Yeah, definitely. So SuppCo has built what we call trust score, and it's a 1 to 10 scale based on 29 different key attributes of supplement production. Anything from manufacturing practices, like are they cGMP certified? Are they publishing their certificates of authenticity at a lot level? Are they doing the proper testing? Do they have certain certifications? Are they using various inactive ingredients or excipients that are deemed healthy or unhealthy? There's a lot of talk right now about the dyes that are being removed from the products. And so we look at all these different things and ultimately provide we simplify that. No, very few users are going to come in and say like, okay, I'm going to go investigate all of these different things to make a decision on that berberine or that ashwagandha that I'm going to take. We do that for them. And so we'll take all of that, we'll turn it into a score on a 1 to 10 scale. So that way a user can quickly come in and say, hey, I've been taking, this brand for 10 years. Oh no, it's a 6. This other brand that costs the same amount, SuppCo has it as a 9. And as a user, I can see why. I can go in and see what are the differences between the different products. It's really easy, it's straightforward, and it helps me as well, even as a scientist, to make proper decisions about the brands and the supplements and the products that I take.
You do this at the supplement level or at the brand level.
Both. We do it at the brand level and at the individual product level.
So so a product could have two scores, like the brand score and the supplement score, or
Exactly. We these days we primarily use the product score because they're just so accurate. The brand will always have a score based on, the brand itself, but every product may be sourced a little bit differently. It may be manufactured a little bit differently. And so that's the reason we ultimately built the product trust score as well. So that way a user can compare not only at the brand level, but literally at the product level to understand all the individual differences in the supplements that they're taking.
do you see much variation? I mean, if you see a trustable brand, do you see much variation in the score they get for their products?
No, it's all within a small standard. It's a pretty tight standard deviation. Like if you're a 9 on like at the brand level, you're very unlikely you're going to have a 6 as a product. You're pretty much always going to be within a half a point one way or the other in your individual products.
Okay, so certainly, I guess for a person, once they've looked at a brand and that brand is trustable one with a good trust score, then they wouldn't need to necessarily check all of that.
Not necessarily.
all
You
the
can if you
brands?
want to. You can go deep. One of the things I like about the way we built the platform is we always have the ability for someone to go deeper. Some people are completely fine to stay surface. I got what I need. Okay, I feel good about my choices. We get a lot of people who are very, very interested in the nuance and the minutia of what's happening behind the scenes, and it just gives them that opportunity as well.
Okay, let's take a step back for a second and understand the supplement industry a bit better, and then it'd be good to go down to some of the details of what you kind of see there. So, what is the size and scope of the supplement industry, say in the US at the moment?
Yeah, in the US, it's about a 60 to 70 billion dollar industry. I mean, worldwide, we're talking about 200 billion on average, but about 75% of Americans take supplements right now in some form or fashion. Could be anything from a very complex, personalized longevity stack to your daily multi. But most people in the US are taking supplements in some capacity. And so even on SuppCo, we have hundreds of thousands of brands that we see. We've trust scored almost 800 different brands, 30,000 different products. And what I think is really interesting is what we've noticed is the long tail of the industry. So you have this like bolus of very quality products or like, big brands that you see. But in our stacks, we see over 30,000, almost 40,000 users have a single product, meaning like a single unique product. So that tail of unique products is about 40,000 stacks. And it just shows you how many brands and how many products exist on the market, even outside of what we may know as just like the major brands that we see on the shelves every day.
In America, we'll talk about the US because I think most people understand it. And doing things worldwide it would just get way too complicated. So you have prescription drugs, and then you have supplements. And is there anything in between, or is there any regulatory environment for supplements that are totally unregulated?
So they are regulated. And you hear people say all the time, supplements are not regulated, supplements are not regulated. And it's kind of a hot button topic for a lot of people. Technically, yes, supplements are regulated in the US. The FDA regulates the supplement market. The issue, problem, whatever word you want to use there, is that the FDA is largely reactive. They do not review products before they hit market. They don't go and test products and require all these different things before products go on. They are reactive if somebody complains or if something is conspicuous and needs to be investigated. That's when the FDA would step in. And so that has created this kind of this open world for supplements to kind of come out, hit the market, brands to kind of pop up. And then when things happen, they'll get investigated, and that's where the level of regulation really occurs. But on the front end of like how do I bring a brand or supplement to market, it's pretty fair game for the most part.
On Amazon, famously, there were some NMNs that had like zero NMN in them. And I think there's been other ones that have also seen that. Is that an FDA thing, or is that like FTC, or whose concern is that?
And, it's kind of an Amazon thing. So Amazon they do have, it's ironic. Amazon has a testing program where in order to get listed on Amazon, you have to go through and submit a batch of your product for testing. The problem is Amazon doesn't select that. They are sent that by the manufacturer, by the brand. So if I'm a brand and I'm putting out a NMN or NAD plus product of some sort, I can send them whatever I want to be tested. And then I can put my lot or my lots on Amazon for sale. And so there's a big loophole there for products that may be underdosing or may be less than savory, where I could send a very high quality product for testing and nobody would know that I'm putting a different product actually on for sale. And that is where that big loophole is happening. And once it's on, it's on. It doesn't get retested. Amazon's not going and pulling a lot later to verify on a regular basis. It's just there. And it's only through independent third-party testing, like what we're doing, that we find where some of these products may be missing the mark or when they fail testing, that they really shouldn't be on there.
For supplements like NMN, I mean, it's just because I know NMN is not because NMN is special. Uh, then they need to get from the FDA some kind of agreement that it's safe, right, before it's released. So how does that work? And once a supplement is agreed as being safe, then basically anybody can put it into any supplement. Is
That's pretty
that
much, yeah, that's pretty much right. It's funny you use NMN because that is actually kind of a weird, unique case. Literally, as of what, 48 hours ago, the FDA made NMN legal. It was off market, now it's legally going to be put back in supplements again. If you're following that story, but there's the GRAS laws that are in place, the generally regarded as safe, and so pretty much a product, a brand, a manufacturer can bring a product to market with an ingredient, and as long as it's kind of that innocent until proven guilty mindset. And so it may be a long time down the road before something happens. So it's again, it's a way a lot of products have come to market over the last couple of decades is through these grass laws, which are now being, talked about changing, and they're talking at the governmental level, they're talking about making adjustments to those laws. It'll be slow, it'll take process, and if it does happen, but it has created again another loophole for people to bring products to market. And I mean, it's interesting because it was being investigated in drug trials, but then because it was first investigated as a supplement, now it's been cleared to be used for supplement use again. And so there's a lot of controversy around NMN, but as of today now, it is legal to be put back in brands and products again and sold as a supplement.
turning to your so I guess problem areas. So what are the biggest issues that you've encountered in the supplement industry?
Oh, so the biggest one we talked about a little bit, and I just think it's the overwhelming nature of choice. Like I think if I was to go buy a Berberin and I go look at the wall or even the Amazon wall and I see hundreds of thousands of products, like that's an issue. That's a big problem. Users have no chance to make a informed decision at that point. But there's other issues, right? Because of that, you get these issues with label dressing or fairy dusting, and that means that I may put a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of amount of active ingredient into a bottle to hit the binary, is the ingredient there, yes or no? But it won't be nearly enough to actually matter. We see this a lot in our tested program. We pulled urolithin A as a good example. We pulled urolithin A off the shelves. We found some that were amazing products, and we found some that had less than 1% of the active ingredient actually in the bottle. And it's because they put a little bit in to say that they have it, but not ever enough to actually matter. So that's another big issue too. I think maybe the other, maybe the last one that gets me personally, I think is this whole proprietary blend concept. You throw the kitchen sink in a supplement and then but maybe not enough of anything to do anything, but you never know because you don't actually know the ingredient list or the volumes that's actually in there. And I actually think that becomes very problematic if I'm trying to maximize my supplement stack or my health and I know I need X% of different nutrients. That is never ever going to help me to see like this vague blend that I don't know what's actually going into my body. And I think that's another issue that are we running into less, but I think it is still very prominent and it's something that needs to be accounted for.
There are some supplements, there are some companies which make these mixtures, like I know that Qualia does and Bioptimizers and companies like this. So they put a bunch of things into a blend, but I think they put how much. But but a lot of the times they're herbs, right? And I assume there's a couple of questions in there. So one is, how would you analyze like a blend like that to make sure that it has what it says it has? And if you have like a herb, I mean, it could have multiple subcomponents within it that maybe it would add up to a problematic number when you put in other supplements in as well.
Yeah, and I think that to me that becomes the bigger issue with blends. I have no problem with blends if they're listing out like this is the amount you're getting from each one. Because if I'm most people, if you're taking you might be taking that with a whole series of stacks. You have no idea if you're getting too much, too little, if you need to supplement with the other multivitamin or some other product to help, round that out. I have no problem at all if you're even if it's minute amounts, if you're listing the amount. I think it's when you're not listing it. And I get it, people want to hide behind their IP and they want to, not share their formulations, but it doesn't do the users a service to not know how much of something is going into their body. And from our end, we can't tell either. We'd have to go do this like very, very complicated testing process, a very expensive testing process to figure that out, which is not like a reasonable thing to do at that level to figure out like the minutia of ingredients that are. in an individual label. So I think for user, if I was to take a blend or recommending a blend, it would always probably be one that's more so focused on like this is how much I'm actually getting from each thing versus, this question black box that might just like be healthy.
If we took ashwagandha, for example, I mean, ashwagandha is not a chemical, right? It's a plant, right?
Mhm.
So can you even measure how much ashwagandha you have?
Yeah, you would measure it. So you would, a lot of these, you're looking at active ingredient of like after it's going through the lab and got through chemical processing, and you're taking the active ingredient from ashwagandha. And so you measure it at that level, and that is ultimately what you would want. Like, they're not just taking the ashwagandha plant, grinding it up and putting it in. They're actually going through a chemical extraction process to pull out, the micronutrients that you actually want from the plant, and that's ultimately what should be surfaced or what is ultimately being measured.
Right? What percentage of supplements that you test actually contain what they say?
Oh, I think if I was last numbers like 43% or 44, something like that percent of the supplements we've tested have failed on our testing. And by fail, I mean we define fail as less than 95% of the active ingredient on the bottle. But most products, when they fail, they either don't have it at all or they have less than 5% of the active ingredient in. And they're doing that fairy dusting to kind of uh, maximum, just hit the fact that they actually have the ingredient, at all. And so it's a strikingly high percent of supplements that we test that turn out to not have that ingredient available.
From a legal point of view, does it make any, how much difference does it make whether you have like 1% of something, but you say that it's 99%, or if you have 0% and you say it's 99%? I mean, does that 1% like get you over some legal hurdle?
I'm not a lawyer, but you are looking at identity at that point, so is it there? Is it present in the bottle, yes or no? And so you do have the ability to say yes and stand behind like, yes, it is in the bottle. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to be able to speak to the legal piece of it, but it does provide a little bit of credibility to like, hey, look, maybe it degraded, maybe something happened in menu. It provides some outs to be able to justify what happened, I think. Whereas if there's nothing there at all, it's pretty clear what happened.
Right. Which categories of supplements tend to have the most issues?
So I think it's a combination of ones that are really hype driven versus complexity to produce and price point. And I'll give perfect like so I think in longevity is a really good example of this right now. Longevity is hot, it's everywhere. People are flocking to this movement that, in ways that we, don't really haven't seen before. And so you see the NAD plus market, the urolithin A market, even the creatine market, now that creatine's kind of made its way into longevity, are people are coming to these supplements for the first time. If you ask a lot of people, hey, what's urolithin A? What's NAD plus? Most people are gonna be like, I don't know. I heard it on a podcast. Somebody told me it was gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna live to be 1,000. And that, there's a lot of that kind of going on, and that what that creates is this environment where people don't know what they're looking for. They don't necessarily know what to buy, and it can create an opportunity for products that may fail testing to kind of enter the marketplace. There, I've actually we can use this right here. So we just tested urolithin A. This product right here has 500 milligrams of urolithin A in it. It's expensive. It's somewhere between 70 to 80 bucks for the product. This one right here lists 2,000 milligrams of urolithin A. It lists double the dosages. It's 3x cheaper. We tested this, it failed completely. And I think that's where the issues really start to happen is if I go on and I start looking at urolithin A supplements, it's an expensive ingredient to produce right now. I know that if I'm looking at 500 milligrams for 80, 90 bucks, or I'm looking at 2,000 milligrams for 30 bucks, what am I going to choose as a consumer? If I don't have any idea that one might not be, so savory, I'm going to pick the cheap one. And that, when we talk about what are the areas that are, ripe for issues in the supplement market, that's the sweet spot where the hype is happening and where people may not truly understand quite yet what that product is or what they're buying, that becomes a big issue.
Do you see lots of I would, let's call them pop-up brands, like pop-up shops, appear on Amazon. So it appears and it's got one product, perhaps urolithin A, and then it probably has zero urolithin A in, and then after a while it just disappears, and then another brand, and it just comes back with a different brand later.
You know, it's yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes, and we've seen it. We tested a couple of creatine gummies that had absolutely zero creatine in them. They completely nothing. Ironically, they have much higher reviews on Amazon than the ones with actual creatine in them because creatine is chalky and it tastes funny. So the failing products actually have better reviews, which is a whole nother story on how that works. But we published the results. People were posting our screenshots, like our tables, on the reviews of that product. The product got taken down. But less than a month later, new SKU, same product, back on Amazon, almost like reset and selling again. And so there's only so much we can do. We can't close loopholes, but we can make a little noise. We can, cloud things for a little bit, but to your point, these we call them fly-by-night brands. They're going to come up, if something happens, they get popped, they get caught, or something, they get identified, they'll come off, they'll relabel it, they'll throw it back on, and honestly, most people will never know.
And creatine isn't even that expensive. I mean,
No, it's not because, and what's interesting, like when we tested creatine, we saw no issues with powders. Powder's kind of hard to like. Why mess with creatine powder? It's cheap, it's everywhere. It's not really interesting to mess with. The gummies become a completely different story. Gummies in general in the supplement space they're very much like an entry point into supplements. I like and dislike gummies simultaneously because I don't take them personally, but I understand if you're not a supplement user and you want to get into it and it's something that you want to, but you're kind of dipping your toe in the water, gummies are a great place to start. But it also is a really interesting place to introduce less than savory products because you don't know what you're buying and you think, oh, this tastes delicious, it tastes great. You don't know what it's supposed to taste like. You don't know it doesn't have creatine in it. So you keep buying that, buying that, buying that, and all you're doing is eating expensive candy. And that is where it gets pretty tricky. It's funny. We had one product, a gummy we tested that it had nothing in it. We actually spoke with the brand. They went all the way back to their co-manufacturer, realized there was issues happening that they didn't know about. They reformulated, put the product back on market, and the reviews tanked because people were like, "Why did they reformulate this? It tastes terrible now. Go back to your original formulation. We like that better." When in reality, they were actually trying to do things right, but the old version was just what people liked better because it just tasted better. And so there's a lot of that happening in the industry, and again, it just creates a very rich environment for products to kind of sneak past, that level of regulation.
yeah, it's like the customers are reviewing the wrong thing. It's like, does it taste like a jelly bear? And then
That's exactly right. And like I said, we when we compared Amazon reviews and like, for the five-star scale, the gummies that actually had creatine in them were lower than the ones that didn't, like ubiquitously. And it was a really interesting kind of like aha moment, I think, for me in recognizing like reviews do not correlate to quality. And we see this too, like when we tested urolithin, all but one product we tested had the Amazon's Choice label on it. And Amazon's Choice is not a label of supplement quality, it's a label of economics. Is this product being purchased a lot? Is it being returned a lot? What's the throughput? What's the price point that people are buying it at? And so a lot of users tend to interpret Amazon's Choice, that label, as like, oh, this is a good product. Oh, I should be able to buy this product. But it has absolutely no correlation to how much of that ingredient is actually in there or what the quality of that supplement is. It's all about the purchasing methods behind it.
so, so you talked about powder and gummies, and using powder is generally difficult, and gummies. So for the other formats, just any comments on which ones are more likely to be good?
I mean, not from a identifying a quality versus like a
Mm.
failing supplement. I mean, capsules are if you wanted to create a false capsule, that's not hard to do. If you wanted to create a false, gel cap, it's not hard to do. Probably capsules are more likely because they're cheaper. Like, why go through the effort of making like a big gel cap that, is gonna not be real? Like, it feels like an unnecessary step. But powders generally probably okay. I think it's the gummies and maybe the traditional capsules that tend to be the biggest issues.
Wait, if I am a consumer and I'm looking for for certifications that that a brand would have, which ones matter? Like good manufacturing practice, or are there others that matter?
Yeah, matter I think is I don't know if I'd say it as like matter or good or bad. I think what they're become education points for consumers. cGMP I think is kind of a no-brainer because it just says like what we said we did, we actually did, which is always valuable. But then you have other certifications like NSF, you have USP, you even have things like USDA organic. NSF and USP are really, really good if you're looking for things like quality or potency. They're going to actually do the testing. They're doing audits. They're looking to make sure that there's no adulterants or banned ingredients in those products. Things like USDA organic are actually looking at ingredient sourcing. They're actually looking at like sourcing practices. Where are these ingredients coming from? And so I think at that point, it really becomes important as a consumer to know what matters to me. So I have ingredients in my own stack that, that are a certain score on SuppCo that there are products that have higher scores, but I don't necessarily need my products to be personally USDA organic. I don't personally need them to have certain things that don't matter for me personally, but other people that may matter a lot. And I think that becomes really important is to know what those certifications mean and why you care about them. And that's why there is a nuance between like, does it matter versus doesn't matter? I think purely for quality, NSF, USP are great certifications. Our trust score alone provides a really strong back because they incorporates those certifications and provides a really strong label of what's happening behind the hood there. But again, I think it comes down to consumers knowing like and understanding why do I care if something is USDA organic or non-GMO or NSF or USP and being able to make a decision on this matters to me or this doesn't for this reason.
I would consider those, they would be judgments based on what you think. I mean, things like whether it's organic or it's non-GMO. So, do those factors go into your trust score? So, if it's not non-GMO, you can't get a full trust score.
No, so we will look at kind of a bolus of different certifications, and you don't need to have all of them to get a full score. And for that reason, exactly, because it's super unreasonable to think a brand is going to go get NSF and USP and USD organic and non-GM. Like that's just that is a bar that is just not reasonable. And so we look at like certain certifications, and as long as they've hit a few of them or a certain number of them, then we will provide their full points. So I mean, we're reasonable with the certifications for brands, but we will specifically tell our consumers these are the certifications that this brand has. So you can have different series of certifications and get the full points based on our score, but we will always surface the why they got those full points and what those certifications are that that brand or that product has.
So, many supplement companies have third party testing certificates that they put on their website. So, how much do these matter? And can you talk a little bit about the process? I mean, because I could make a batch, right? I could send it off and then I could make something totally separate and sell it to people. I mean, is there any way of telling whether that's happening or not?
Oh, that's a whole question to get into. So the short answer to this is like COAs and a COA, a certificate of analysis means that this product has been sent to a third-party lab, one that has no affiliation with the brand whatsoever. It has been tested and it is listing out like yes or no, this is the outcome of that particular test. Um, a lot of brands do this at the lot level. We see a lot of like we actually give points for brands and products that publish their lot level certificates of analysis showing that things are. But I have pulled products off of Amazon for testing that have listed a picture of a certificate of analysis as one of like the brand images and had that product fail at 0% or less than 1% of an active ingredient. So I think at that point, I think it's a good indicator. I don't think it should be the only indicator. You know, if you're looking at a site and they have all their lot levels and they're showing their sourcing information and their cGMP and they have all these different things, that's probably great. But sometimes it can be used as like a sneaky branding thing that maybe they did do a test. The same thing, like I sent my golden sample over, I did a test, I got that certificate, but this is what I'm actually selling. Impossible to know at that level, but usually it's a good sign, but I wouldn't take it as the only indicator of quality.
How big is a lot, by the way?
It depends. You know, it's every it's some are some larger company like manufacturers will have giant like thousands and thousands and thousands in a lot. Some smaller manufacturers could have, I don't know, 3 to 6 to 10 maybe in a lot, thousand in a lot. So it all just depends on the size of the production.
Is it possible to get a certificate of analysis for a uh, a compounded supplement, like so one that has ashwagandha and some other things in as well?
Yeah, it definitely is. You can test a good lab can test and break down anything. It can just be expensive to do so. If you have 30 different nutrients in a blend, you are running individual tests on each one of those individual nutrients at, a couple $100 a pop. And so it can get expensive quickly when you're doing these very large kind of blends that are being tested together.
So what would you see as some red flags for supplements to avoid? So if you're looking for a supplement and you find it on Amazon, what would be a red flag?
So what we're just talking about, I always am looking for a certificate of analysis. I typically don't buy supplements straight off of Amazon personally. It's okay. Like a lot of brands will actually have storefronts on Amazon, and if I'm going to buy there, that's usually where I'll go through is the storefront, because you more than likely are getting, you're not getting a dupe, you're getting the actual product that you're comfortable with. So I'm going to look for certificates of analysis that are there. Um, a lot of times what you'll see is clinically tested, third-party validated, research, studied, but they won't provide the evidence. It'll just say these big buzzwords without any kind of qualifier or here's a link or here's what we did. And to me, that is always a red flag that it's trying to be a bit of a branding kind of thing. I don't love that. I see that on a lot of the products that we test that, they're all clinical studied, but no, they're not. And then the other thing is like I don't touch gummies. I understand that gummies are a good entry point for people, but personally I don't trust them. I don't touch them. Even like you just can't make gummies for a lot of these things. You can't make them taste good. And I think, where is it? I have one here. I have a berberine that says there's 2,000 milligrams of berberine in what, two gummies? It's impossible. It's literally impossible to fit 2,000 milligrams of berberine in those two gummies and not make it taste like just absolute hell. So there's some like, and these are things that I know. These are not things that the general consumer should know. But this is the reason I just kind of don't recommend gummies is because it's too easy to kind of get duped, I think.
So would you consider that if a brand only has one product, that is a red flag? Although, I mean, I would just add that it's a little bit complicated because there are I know some companies that they just do astaxanthin, like AX3. It just is astaxanthin, but I trust it. Or I think it's a good company anyway. So just your thoughts on that.
I don't think you can just label it that way personally. I think, when Pendulum first came out, they were selling Akkermansia, and that is a very well formulated probiotic, but it was originally it was a single product. Timeline came out with their urolithin A. Initially, it was a single product, using MitoPure, which is a very well clinically studied nutrient molecule. I think there's just it's a good head check. Oh, this company is selling only one product. Let me go a little further. Okay, there's a certificate of analysis. That's a good sign. Let's go a little further. Do they have a study on it? Oh, I see there's a lot of I think it kind of goes one of two ways. I'm selling one product and I'm trying to get this done quick and I'm going to get out and be done. I'm selling one product because I spent the time to do it right. We put a lot of science and a lot of research into this and we're proud of this and we're going to put it out in the market. Probably not somewhere in the middle. It's probably going to be one of those two kind of ends of the spectrum. But I think that there's a little bit more research that needs to be done before just like making that as like a red stamp of like one product being sold by a company.
So, talking about clinical research, so Amazentis or the timeline, they came out with urolithin A, and they actually did some research directly on it,
Mhm.
right? But now that I see there's other companies that are also selling urolithin A, but it's the same molecule. So would it be okay for these other companies to say it is clinically validated?
To a degree. So, Mitopure, which is the underlying active ingredient in Timeline, is actually licensed to other brands, and it is, listed on the label, and it's not unique to Timeline anymore. There are other brands that actively use it. In that case, absolutely, because Mitopure, it was Mitopure that was ultimately tested in the product. It wasn't, Timelines or Code Ages or Renews. It was, it was it was that specific active that now is in others, but some of them, a lot of the urolithinases don't have that. It doesn't mean they're fake, but they're not using that like that one major ingredient. And if I look at the one I'm sitting with here, it's definitely not urolithin. It's not mitopure. They're not even trying to pretend it's mitopure, and that kind of gives me a bit of a pause at this point. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's bad. I think there's other products that are listing. We tested one, I know, that doesn't use Mitopure, but passed with flying colors. So it really just depends. Mitopure is a good if it's listed as Mitopure, it's probably real. It doesn't mean it's not real if it's not there. And I think that's like there's so much gray in this area that it's hard to just put any kind of blanket statement on something like that.
Okay. So are there any brands or categories that you do trust?
I'm going to avoid brands just based
Okay.
on
Yeah.
my
Okay.
my position, but categories I think we can definitely do. So the best way I can say this is like on SuppCo, we have never had a product fail testing under a trust score of 8. Pretty much, it doesn't mean everything under 8 is bad, but an 8 and above on SuppCo has always passed the independent third party testing we've done. And I think that that's usually my benchmark these days for like you want to guarantee something is safe and it's relevant and it's going to have exactly what you're looking for. That's the right way to do it. Um, I think there needs to be a lot of caution around these hype areas, the longevity space. Now that NMN has just become allowed, you're going to see a flood of NMN products hit the market. No way of knowing what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's maybe a dupe. So I think some caution should be taken. But in general, I think looking at these certifications, looking at the trust score on SuppCo, I think that's probably the easiest and the simplest way to know this is a quality product that I can trust.
How long would once a new NMN comes out, would you look at it? How long would it take you to look at it?
What do you mean look at?
Well, no, it would give it a score.
Hmm. I mean, pretty quickly. These days, most of our scoring is reactive. Most of the bigger, larger brands, we have trust scored on SuppCo. But like we talked about, that tail in the supplement industry is so long. And now more brands are going to come out. Usually it's our consumers, our users, who say, like, hey, I take this brand, you don't have it scored. Can you score it for me? And then our process is we reach out to the brand multiple times. We ask them for all the things in our trust score. Sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't. A lot of times brands are super excited to be like, yes, finally, here's all the great things we do. Please go tell everyone in the world about it. And a lot of times brands are like, no, we're not going to tell you anything. And then if they don't, after we've given them a chance, we're putting the score up anyway. And sometimes they come back to us and say, hey, okay, here's actually the things that we need to raise our score. Sometimes we never hear from them again. It's usually a really good way of knowing whether or not a brand is, I don't know, quote unquote, doing the right things. Because if we put up a score and it's low, they're going to come tell us and they're going to come give us everything that they need to say, like, hey, look, we want our score up. We have 350,000 users on the platform. It'll be over 1 million by June of next year. Like, there are a lot of people looking at these brands, and brands are noticing that, and they really want, if they're doing things right, they want people to know about it.
Is it worth paying more for premium brands? So, well, let me change that question a bit. Do you see a correlation between the trust score and the price for the same product?
Without question. Without question. I mean, good supplements are really hard to manufacture and they're complicated. I just spent a couple of days a few weeks ago on a farm of a fairly big brand looking at them harvest live ginkgo biloba, watching them take it to their labs, do the do the testing right there in their lab. It never leaves their farm or their labs. It's produced right there on site. They do regenerative agriculture to, manufacture and keep the soil clean year over year. That is expensive to do, to do all that work. And so obviously those products are going to come at a higher price point. But what you're getting for them from a bioavailability perspective, from a quality perspective of the original ingredient, is kind of second to none. Whereas some of these that you may be sourcing raw material from unknown places overseas, bringing it in, throwing it in a capsule, putting it in a bottle, putting it on a shelf, it's a very different process. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that the other product is bad, but your like ability to guarantee your product is good, it's going to come at a higher price point.
Which made me think of something. So you're testing that the bottle has what it says it has, right? But you mentioned bioavailability, and so a good quality supplement would have better bioavailability. But is that something that you can measure? Does that get put into the trust score?
What we will look at, to a degree. Well, I don't know. Let me think about the way to answer that. Yes, asterisk. And the reason I say that is because there's different ways to make things bioavailable. You could add things like piperine to a curcumin to make that significantly more bioavailable. We will account for that and we'll look at that and we recommend that that's what people be doing. But you could also change your delivery mechanism. Liposomal delivery is really popular for something like NAD plus. And that's not really necessarily accounted for. More so that would get accounted for in our scientific we have a scientific evidence section. So if you are introducing a new delivery mechanism for your product and you do a study on it and it shows that it works, that's where you would get credit in our platform for something like that. So there are maybe adjacent ways that people will get credit for the bioavailability, but not in kind of maybe in different ways depending on the method that they're going for.
Right. Okay. And I certainly see it. It's very complicated to be able to look at bioavailability, and it's probably not something that you would be able to do kind of separately.
Yeah. And we're in a weird space. I don't know. I don't want to say weird. We're in actually a pretty cool space right now where there's so much science and research happening in the like availability area. Everything from liposomal delivery to exosomes to comparing with different ingredients to increase the body's ability to absorb it. Like it's really interesting. And I think there's a lot of stuff that won't work. I think there's a lot of stuff that will work. And I'm very excited about the next couple of years to see like what really plays out and how different ingredients and different supplements actually take to these delivery mechanisms and what actually ultimately becomes effective.
Yes. So your application also does recommendations. So you also recommend supplements. Could you talk a little bit about that? So, what do you base that on?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, understanding what to take, I think, is maybe even the easier half of the battle. Like, if I'm stressed a lot. I figure out I need ashwagandha. That's great. Then the hard part kind of becomes which one do I take? And that's where we do it through Trust Score. So we will recommend essentially we will surface brands to like to users and they can tell us what matters to them. Price. Some people are like, I want the best, I don't care about the price. I want the best possible supplement on the market. That's the one I'm gonna buy. Some people will say, I'm not spending more than this much per month and I need the best value supplement for what I can find. And that's what we surface to users. So, a value supplement may be a 7.5 or an 8 on our trust score, whereas, we didn't surface them the 10, but that's okay because that's what they told us they wanted. Or if somebody was like, I want the best possible product, that's what we're going to surface to them regardless of price. And it's all about giving users options. We'll never just surface them one. They'll have the one they can look through the whole app and see all the trust scores on all the products. But even our own recommendations, we'll give them multiple and we'll allow them to switch things out, even like re-roll it to see like I want different options. I don't know about these and go deeper and see like why did that product get that score? If I'm going to pay $30 for a berberine, I want to see why they got a score of 7 or a score of 9 or 8, et cetera, and make my informed choice at that point. And that we help them from looking at the wall of Amazon supplements or the wall in the grocery store and trying to be like, I want that one, and try to help optimize and make sense of that choice a little bit more.
How how detailed is the request that the user can make, or the goal that they can set? I mean, can they just say, I want to improve my sleep, or yeah, how much detail can they put in there?
Yeah, you know that we have two tiers. We have a very robust free tier that will always be there that users can come in, and we will have like like if I need better sleep, there'll be a sleep stack available, and it'll say like these are the things you should be taking. We do have a paid version where people can say like, I want to go completely personalized, and they can upload all of their information to us, and we will analyze that and give them a very specific stack to their goals and their needs. And so it really depends on the tier they're at. But we give users the ability to get hyper personalized in their programming and get that very, very specific to them. Because my needs for sleep, I have a 1-year-old. My nights are sometimes very interesting versus someone who maybe works a night shift and is trying to optimize it. Like just, those are very different needs, and a lot of times can be different products or optimized a little bit differently. And so we give people the ability to optimize based on their lifestyle versus just like always maybe like this is a good sleep stack.
Do you look at the details of what's in each supplement brand? So if I take a multivitamin and I take something for the immune system, they might both have zinc. And then would you be able to add those two together and say, okay, you're having too much zinc and you need to change one of these?
Yeah, we do that. It's exactly what we do. So we once somebody creates their stack on SuppCo, so if I go and I'm scanning, you can scan all the barcodes and it will upload each of the individual products and show you your stack. Then we will take and we have dosing information, built into the app of like this is what your daily level should be at. So zinc, if you're too high, it will collate all of the products together that have zinc in them, calculate that as an entity and say like you and show you where you are amongst all of your products. And so it's a really easy way to say like, ooh, my stack isn't super optimized. I'm getting way too much zinc or vitamin C or whatever it may be. We can make some adjustments and shift it to where, we're keep everything in range.
Do you highlight things like folic acid and say, well, this is using folic acid and really it should be using folate?
It is one of the most hot button topics and potentially controversial topics in the platform. We have We essentially we will highlight it. We don't tell people what to take. We will explain it. Some people will know their methylation status, some people won't. Some people will be fine with the folate versus folic acid, et cetera. But we do highlight it and we'll let them know what, a version of it is in eat like a prenatal, for example, what's in it. We have expert protocols that make recommendations one way or the other, but as an entity, SuppCo doesn't make a recommendation on that one way or the other, but we will always highlight it to users and let them make that choice.
Okay. Do you I mean, you're making recommendations for supplements without any medical kind of history for people. I mean, do you consider that to be something you need to think about?
Of course. I mean, one, as everyone does, we will put the, check with your doctor before taking a
Okay.
supplement in. But, there's only so far you can do with that. And we're a consumer company. We're not, we're not a HIPAA company. We're not a healthcare company. We can't even really go collect that level of information from people. And so we can do the best we can. If people are taking certain medications or things like that, we do encourage them to talk to their physician and make sure that they are comfortable or that their physicians feel confident in helping them take. We have a lot of people come to us and say, my doctor said I should be taking XYZ. And so we can help them make that decision as well. So a lot of it becomes, we can make the recommendations, but it's no different than somebody standing in front of a wall and just grabbing something that they were going to do anyway. We can just hopefully guide them to a better choice than they were going to make otherwise.
So one thing, I can't get your application. I'm based in Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
I can't. So where is your application available?
So the actual app is only available in the US and for a good reason. I mean, every region, every country has their own their own FDA, their own set of manufacturing standards and guidelines. And our trust score is very much baked on the US model, because that's where we are, that's where we're headquartered. You could go log in on the web platform anywhere in the world. and create an account and be able to use it on, in whatever your browser is. The issue becomes it is only going to primarily cover US supplements. So if you were in Hong Kong and you were taking supplements that were largely available in the US, you'd probably be fine. If you're in Canada, Australia, and you're trying to take local supplements, you're probably not going to get very far because we don't cover supplements in those different countries because they're manufactured under different guidelines. And so our trust score isn't necessarily applicable to supplements that are, made and manufactured in other countries.
But it has the same features that
Yeah,
the
so
app has.
yeah, it has all the same features. If you were to go log on to SuppCo on the web right now in Hong Kong, you would see all the same features. It would look a little bit different because of the design, but the features would all be the same.
Oh, cool. I will definitely give it a try. I kind of gave up when I couldn't get it on my phone.
All good. Yeah, you'll get a one-to-one experience of being able to log in, play with it, and create your stack, et cetera, as you would on the mobile app.
Excellent. I will definitely give that a try. So, where do you see the future of the supplement industry? You said before you were optimistic and things were like really interesting at the moment, which they are. So, yeah, how do you see the supplement industry moving forward?
It's only going to grow. Like, I mean, more and more people are coming to supplements every day for good reason. But where we have to go. Like we are not going to move to a place of less transparency in the supplement industry. We're already pretty much there. Users are getting savvier, users are getting smarter. They are, I mean, especially in this world of AI tools and research and people being able to look things up and all the podcasting information that's out there, people are educating themselves. And they're starting to learn why they should take certain supplements. They're starting to learn what different certifications mean, how things interact with each other, and that is only going to continue to grow. My Valhalla of the supplement industry is that all the products on market show everything, show their manufacturing practices, show that they're transparent, show that they've done research behind their product, and if they don't do that, then they don't make it as a brand. That's kind of, I think, the end game of where the supplement industry is going. Are you ever going to get there perfectly? Probably not. But consumers are getting, we see it on SuppCo all the time. The level of interaction and questions that I get from our users is so, it stumps me sometimes where I'm like, I don't actually know the answer to that. We got to go figure this out. People are just they want to know more. They're hungry for information and they genuinely want to know what's in that bottle. I think one of the biggest issues we see left and right is if you're taking 13 supplements and you can't at least say why you're taking those 13 supplements, you probably shouldn't be taking them. And I think that's changing. People are starting to really understand why they're taking what they're taking, and it's going to lift the entire like tide of the industry.
Do you have many brands with 10, by the way?
No, we don't because it's a high bar. We do have tens. We have people who pass with flying colors in the platform, but it's a handful, not an audience. You know what I mean? It's expensive. It's hard to do. There's a lot that goes into getting to that. Like I said, there's 29 different attributes in Trust Score that we evaluate brands on, and it requires a lot of investment, which for a supplement that is, as we said, let's call it loosely regulated in the beginning, you have to want to do it versus like being forced to do it. And so that there's just naturally going to be less people hitting that number.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, because I have spoken to researchers who are researching supplements, and that's the hardest thing is you can't patent it, so you can't charge a lot for it. And so there's only so much incentive, there's only so much money that you can invest in making it the best, right? It's tricky.
Yeah, and we have a conversation. We talk to brands all the time about this exact concept. Like if you're a brand that is doing everything right and you're putting the dollars and the money behind doing it right, what they're looking for is ways to show off. Look at all the great things we've done. Like I mentioned that farm I went and visited. One of the conversations we had was how do we tell people all these incredible things we're doing and show our value? And that's honestly why kind of SupCo exists in the trust score space is we want to help brands tell that story. Like if brands are doing the right thing, we want to tell everyone that brands are doing the right thing. Like there's no reason not to. And so it finally, I think, opens up the opportunity for these products, these producers, these brands that are really investing things and doing in manufacturing and sourcing ingredients the right way to kind of show off their scores in a sense and really say like, hey, look how great we're doing. I mean, you can go find it right now. Metagenics is a really good example of this. If you go on Metagenics website right now, you will see trust score embedded on almost every one of their products. Very high quality products, very high quality scores, and it's a way for them to kind of show off that their products are out there and that they have really high scores and kind of differentiate themselves from the rest of the market.
And you don't take any revenue from brands. Your revenue comes from the consumers who are the paid
That's correct.
consumers.
Yeah, the I think one of the trickiest things for us to try and do right now would be to take money from brands because we can't be in brands' pockets. The only way for SuppCo to work as an entity is to be unbiased. And because if a user was like, "Hey, this we know you're taking money from this brand, that's why I'm getting recommended this brand over and over," all of a sudden our credibility is hurt. And so we have to maintain independence from brands in that way. We want to show them off, but we can't take a bunch of money for it to show like, "Hey, look, go buy this product," because we would lose consumer trust, and that honestly is everything to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they can't like pay you. Please give us a score. Right. Yeah.
Nope. We've had brands ask to be part of our tested program, like please test my product next because it's so great. We don't take money for that. We don't, we don't take recommendations for that. We everything is completely objective. Even the scores that we give, we have all of the data points to back it up. So we're not a brand couldn't be like, hey, I want an extra half a point. Here's some cat. Like we don't, there's none of that we do because again, we would lose our objectivity.
Excellent. So as we come into close, so do you have like three pieces of advice for consumers who are buying supplements today, kind of as a summary?
Yeah, yeah. So my number one piece of advice at all times for anyone looking to buy a supplement is know why you're taking that supplement. Like if I don't care if you heard it on the internet, a podcast from a friend, a doctor, just I don't expect someone to know the science or the deep details, but just know that if you're going to take berberine, you're taking it because you want help with glucose control or heart health. I mean, something super simple, but just know why you're taking what you're taking. That is probably like my heart breaks when people tell me I'm taking this because a friend told me to take it and they don't know what it is or why. So that's my number one. Number two, I would say develop a bit of a sniff test. We talked about urolithin A earlier, where we had a very expensive product at 500 milligrams. We had a 2,000 milligram product for 3x cheaper. A warning flag should go off. Like just naturally, if there's that big of a differentiation, you should be as a consumer asking yourself why, and not being like, "Oh, I got a deal. Why does that deal feel so good?" So like just developing a bit of a sniff test, I think, can save people a lot of headache and a lot of money in the supplement industry. And then number three is understand how your products are working together. Understand, like you made I think the example you said earlier of if I'm taking a multivitamin and this other, and now I'm taking 3x the amount of zinc I should be taking per day. That is that people don't know because if you're taking that many things, if people will just buy all this stuff, you have no idea how it's working together. And that's why I think throw it on SuppCo. Like just take a look at the dosages so that way it lines up for you to make sure that you're, in zone or like you're not at a dangerous level, I think is really important. And just doing those three things provides a little bit of education, which will get people 90% of the way there when it comes to their supplement routines.
So where can people go to learn more about SuppCo's work and I get the applications?
Yeah, SuppCo, SuppCo. I always say like I lovingly call it, just say supplement company, shortened to SuppCo. You can find it on the App Store, suppco.com. If you want to use the web platform, like I said, the web platform can be accessed anywhere, not just where the app is US focused. But it's very straightforward. You can go on there and you can scan the barcodes of all the ingredients and all the supplements you're taking now and get your stack ready.
Excellent. So, Dr. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great talking to you. And I think what you're doing is so needed. I work in this, I spend the rest of my life in this space, and I find it really confusing.
I have bought fake supplements. I have bought supplements that failed testing and I didn't even know it. Like that's how tricky this space is if I'm the head scientist at a company that does this for a living and I can make that mistake. That's crazy. Like that's how good some of these like fly by night manufacturers can be.
Okay, Dr. Glenn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.